Guten Abend, wir übertragen jetzt live. Danke, dass ihr auch heute bei OreAni einschaltet. Das heutige Thema ist die Herbstsaison des Jahres 2014. Heute sind dabei Nick, Sean
Uh,
und Tenku. Und natürlich bin ich auch da.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us for 2014 fall season. Just giving a call out to our folks, Germany, who are watching this. Today, we'll be starting off with Shirobako. This fun little title here. I also hope you enjoy our new screen here made by Owen Evans for our fall season. Let's go ahead and get started with Shirobako. Does anyone want to start off with this?
all right, I'll take it. It's Shirobako is the newest PA Works anime, and it's an anime about anime. It's directed by Tsutomu Mizushima, who I think his career as a director started with Hare no Chigu like over a decade ago, and since then he's just directed like an incredible number of shows. Just you had to have seen a bunch of them. Girls on Panzer, Ika Musume, Dokuro-chan, Genshiken Nidaime, just so much stuff. He even did one at PA Works called Another, but he tends to be pretty bad at like horror anime, but he's pretty good at sort of like comedic drama, and Shirobako is sort of in the realm of comedic drama. Anyway. So unlike a lot of recent PA Works stuff, Shirobako is actually really good. And like I said, it's an anime about anime production. It follows an animation studio as they become like in their first effort to become the lead studio for a TV production. And so they're having to juggle producing like a bunch of episodes at the same time. The specter of the TV broadcast schedule is always lingering over their heads, because that is the drop dead deadline. Whatever is done or is not done, it has to be shown on TV, in front of like thousands of people. So, so episode 1 sort of gives you a broad overview, and then episode 2 is about what the director does, and it follows the director around. And it is a pretty interesting episode because he sort of has this feeling that one of the scenes aren't right, and he starts talking about that to the animation director and the animation supervisor, and the supervisor starts groaning. He's like, "Oh God, is this going to mean retakes? Are we going to have to like redraw this scene?" And they're all fretting about the deadline, but the director is adamant that there's something wrong with the scene, but he can't articulate it. So they have a big staff meeting, and then through this staff meeting, he sort of gets everyone on board that the vision is wrong and it needs to be changed, and at risk of not meeting the deadline, making these changes is necessary. So it shows you what the director does as like he's the vision guy, like all the creative decisions are ultimately approved by him, but he also can't do it without his team. So it sort of illustrates that the director is not like his own castle. Episode 2 is about I don't know if you call them animation runners these days, but it follows a production assistant. And it's one of these unglamorous jobs that you don't really know as like an anime fan, like what the hell they do. So this episode shows you what they do, and they keep track of like who's doing what and what time each little task is due. And so the other staff members consult with the production assistants or the production desk, which is like there's apparently like a head production assistant or a head producer guy. And then he has a bunch of production assistants, and they're all sort of managing. They're all keeping track of who's doing what all the deadlines are, and if something needs to be changed, then they they'll be the ones to know like how we can shift staff around and like which favors can we pull from which people. But yeah, it's basically like the show is like Animation Runner Kuromi, the TV show, and in the best way possible. It totally fulfills like what Runner Kuromi was about, and it expands on it, and it's funny and it's entertaining and it's like really engaging. It's so good. I don't get this kind of satisfaction that often of like I see a show on the horizon, I'm like, that show sounds really good. I hope it's really good. And then it comes out and it's really good. It's so good. Yeah, I'm so satisfied with Shirobako. It's one of the best things on TV right now. That's my spiel. Sorry for being overlong.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I usually don't sample my shows at all ahead of time, so this one did kind of catch me off guard. I actually wasn't really warming up during episode 1 to it. I was kind of on the fence with it, but after, the next few episodes hit, I did really take a shine to it. I appreciated seeing all the various just situations an anime studio may find themselves with, having no exposure to that. It's kind of great seeing it presented in animation form, as ironic as that sounds, but just to see how all the various stuff that we watched is kind of pieced together, and all the various little meltdowns that happen along the way, and how they could possibly be averted, it does make for an interesting show. So I'm looking forward to see where it goes by its resolution. It's one show that I don't really have a clear direction on. I'm like I said, episode 1 kind of had me on the fence, and the next few were really great. I'm like, where is this thing ultimately going to end up? Are we going to see the production finale? Are we going to run across a lot more common problems? Because we seem to have run across quite a many in the very first few episodes, and I was just kind of wondering, are we going to be just bombed with even more issues along the way? Is there a lot more chaotic, a chaotic process ahead? I'm not too sure. So I'm looking forward to see what it presents, but I'm not too sure where it's just kind of going at this time. What is its end scene gonna be?
I also wonder about its overall structure. So far, each episode was about something. So the first one was like an introduction, and they also sort of illustrated the specter of the broadcast schedule, in the sense that people are sacrificing their personal health and working these insane marathons, just sort of these clutch marathon sessions to get stuff done right before the broadcast. And then episode 2 was about the director, and episode 3 was about the production desk. So, what's episode 4? Is each episode going to be about a particular aspect of the studio, or is it going to start developing a story arc of sorts? Don't know yet. Does this thing run? How long is this show? Is it 1 or 2 seasons?
It's a half season, I think.
Yeah, let me check that real quick.
When I say season, I mean the literal kind. Is it running through fall, or it's also extending through winter or something?
It doesn't have an episode count on the side I'm looking
Oh,
at.
it says 24 on mine, so it's 2 core.
Yeah, that's cool.
You have anything, Tripler?
Yeah. As Nick, it certainly catched oneself off guard. It has one of the best drifting scenes in anime history, and yeah, that certainly impressed me, and that's what made me say this anime will be amazing in the future, because they had included this amazing drifting scene with all these little details and stuff. And after 3 episodes, it yet has to fail my expectations. And that's, yeah, it's a nice anime, and I have a good impression on it. I think it will be at least good for the next 2 or 3 episodes, or one of the best anime this season.
On a odd side note, when I went to look up like the core count on it, on the producers, it actually says PA Works, comma Warner Brothers. So, interesting. I don't commonly see their name tied to a lot of series like this early off.
All right.
Warner Brothers. Yeah, not to TV shows. I mean, I've seen their name in front of plenty of
like feature films.
Anime films. Yeah.
So when I got into this series, I actually almost dropped it or didn't get into it at the very beginning. I don't know what it was, but maybe as I was watching, I was like, ugh, this is not catching me. So I've set it to the side, and after I saw people posting about it, saying this is so awesome, I picked it up once again and was really happy. I don't know what was going on that day. I don't know why I couldn't get into it, but that's and just really great. I liked how they showed, especially in the audio room, and what was going on in there, how they did the different changes, and how the show ran. And it's just really fun. And another little interest in is those little figures or the dolls that she sees. And she talks with using her voice. I thought that was kind of funny and interesting too.
Something to notice or read about, I guess, later on in the show is a lot of the characters that appear in it are references to. They refer to like real people working in the actual industry. So the blue shirt director guy that you always see, he is a reference to the guy who directed the original Full Metal Alchemist. The sort of old guy that's always cooking them curry, he's a reference to Maruyama. Who is the founder of Madhouse, and he's since moved on and like founded MAPPA. So he's a reference to that, and a lot of the voice actors in episode 2 were like direct references to actual voice actors, and so on and so forth. That young kid, like that production assistant young kid who you really hate. He's actually the director of Shido Bako. That's his younger self. He's making fun of his younger self. So yeah, I'm sure there's going to be more of that. I'm following someone on Twitter who points it out, and Albert's reading. Albert's been telling me about what the sort of the revelations from the Japanese community, like who they're. So I've been getting tidbits from both those angles. Yeah, I'm done.
All right. So this is a great show. People highly recommend it to watch it. So let's go ahead and move on to our next title, though. Got quite a bit of titles today. What is this? Parasite?
Mm-hmm.
Kiseiju? Dun dun dun. Very fun manga, very fun story to read. So happy it's in anime form now. So I have to say though, seeing these characters that I've known and read about, it's kind of awkward because of the character designs. But now that I've seen about 3 episodes, I'm starting to get used to the characters, and it's getting pretty fun. Were you going to say something, Nick?
Yeah, I was just going to comment that I've actually read this a long time ago too, never really thinking that it was going to get an anime because it's been, finished for so long. Interesting enough, this is also a second 2-core show, so we'll be running with this one for quite a while alongside the Shirobako. And from everything I've been watching so far, it's pretty faithful to the original manga. I wouldn't say they deviate too far. They seem to be covering almost every topic that I can pull out of my memory, but, you know, if they do glance over something, I honestly forgot about it myself. So.
Kiseiju Parasite is kind of like a return to form for Madhouse, or at least a throwback to the kind of anime that they used to make this sort of like grotesque body horror action type stuff. This is exactly what, like, this is what they would have made in the 80s. But, you know, they've long since distanced themselves from that stuff, especially with the departure of Maruyama, who, you know, I was just talking about like 3 minutes ago. So yeah, I guess we're not going over the premise. Like, in some ways it's fun and exciting, and in other ways it's kind of frustrating because, you know, sometimes the interaction between Migi, like the parasite alien that has taken over his right hand, and the protagonist, I forget what his name is, but like sometimes that's really fun to watch. Sometimes it's kind of frustrating because there's some deliberate stallings going on, like, oh, I'm going to sleep now, so I can't talk to you. You know, the right hand will go to sleep, and then, you know, the boy will be like, hey, I still need to know stuff. And yeah, it was mostly episode 3 that I started to become disappointed or disenchanted by it. You know, I don't want it to turn into a monster of the week kind of thing. You know, where they're going to stall and then put the battle like right at the cliffhanger, and, you know, that's not really what I find interesting about Parasite, because the core sci-fi stuff is actually pretty cool. There's this alien, you know, the invasion of the body snatchers type stuff that I don't think they've capitalized on too much yet, but they could. That there's this sneaky alien invasion going on, and nobody knows about it except the boy, because normally the parasites sort of fly in through the window at night while you're sleeping and burrow into your skull and take over your brain. But instead, he was able to stop one of the aliens from doing that, and it had to take over his arm instead. So now he sort of formed this relationship with his alien arm, and together they sort of seek out and, for whatever reason, continuously get into fights with like the other parasites, the other body snatchers. And they're just looking for answers. And I actually kind of like that aspect of Parasite, that the alien doesn't have answers. You know, the alien doesn't really know what it is. It's just what's happening. It's just biology. It's just nature, you know, except coming from outer space. And, you know, even though the aliens are like super intelligent, but they're basically born the day they sort of take over someone.
Some more intelligent than others, but
yeah. So in the first episode, he meets a body snatcher that had to that basically took over a dog, and then he was really sad that he was a dog. Yeah, then they had to fight him and kill him.
But, you know, that's actually kind of a turning point to the series too. I find it interesting how the parasites always think, oh, I have not captured a good host, oh, I have not taken over the head of the host, and thus I have failed. And we see our protagonist here is Shinichi, I believe his name is.
Yeah, it could be.
You know, he's pretty taken aback by this at first, but the parasites, like, you know, the big conflict going on here is the parasites need to be cannibalistic to kind of get their nutrients now that they've taken over the head. I guess just normal food won't cut it for whatever reason. And, you know, his right hand feeds off what he eats. So instead of being like a murderer, he's kind of tame. And while these epic fights are going on that aren't so epic, he realizes that he can go toe to toe with the other parasites, but while the parasite is, what is normally the head of the body is using its mutation tendril attacks, and he's kind of parrying and countering and going at it. Shinichi, our main protagonist, is another element to the fight that the others don't have. He is a person still. He's still intact. So while the alien's preoccupied defending, he can still kind of move about and just it's kind of just a commodity that the other parasites don't have, and but he's the failure.
Yeah, we'll see if two heads are better than one in the next episode, so to speak.
So, real quick, I just want to make a few mention things because I've read the manga. I kind of still know quite a bit, and I have noticed that they've changed a few things, or even kind of made me question, wait, why did they add that? Like in the first episode where he stops the car. That never happened in the book. And it doesn't really make sense as you find out later on what goes on. And there's just slight changes, like even the dog was a different dog and stuff like that they have done in the manga. And I think they've actually kind of modernized the anime because I think this manga was made in the early 90s.
Yeah, it's late 80s apparently.
Yeah, so like not even smartphones were used or even thought of at that. So them using the smartphone and the anime and stuff was kind of interesting. I like how they added what we have now into that story. So as you're watching it, it's pretty fun.
Do you think it changes the spirit of the manga, or is it similar?
It's still very similar. It's very interesting, like the thing using the computer and stuff to research and get information versus him just constantly reading nothing but books or watching television.
Mm-hmm.
But as we head on, I'm kind of interested to see what other changes they make, and hopefully they'll be better. But overall, it's pretty fun. You have anything to add, Triplet?
Yeah, everyone else thinks the anime is quite great. I thought so too for the first two episodes, but in the third episode, I thought, well, it's not that fun to watch, so I'm maybe putting it on the backlog for the season. Might watch it later on.
I think episode 3 was very strange, but had a point kind of showing how parasites think very different from everyone else. Like how he said you can hide with the wall of flesh and everything like that. So it shows how they disregard different things and how they think.
Right. Like, they have no culture or society, so they don't really get what culture and society is for, which is to protect us from that state of nature of, from the dog-eat-dog world that appears to be just basic to the parasites. So I don't know. That Parasite needs to look that up on Wikipedia. Because it's kind of annoying how often it gets stuck on that point of, like, why do you value other people so much? Says the parasite hand, and then the teenage boy is just like, he doesn't know what to say. So that's not really a compelling, like, philosophical conflict. So I hope they move on from that, because there are some pretty interesting things. Like, he met the school teacher in the first half of episode 1, which by far was the more interesting half. And she's a really interesting character because she's the first parasite, the first body snatcher that they meet that isn't out to get them. And instead she's trying to figure out like what it means to be a parasite. And she even just says straight up, like, I did it with this other parasite dude, and then I got pregnant with a human baby. So what does that make us? Are we still human or not?
we'll find out next time.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting. There's some pretty interesting sci-fi going on. I hope they stick with the sci-fi and don't let the like Monster of the Week stuff like overpower that. That's my hope for the anime series.
All right. So let's go ahead and move on. Hopefully things will turn up better and we can post tripling on it and tell them, get back on it. So let's go to the next title, which I thought was kind of interesting. It's very strange. What is this? Grisaya no Kaitsu?
Grisaya no Kajitsu.
Kajitsu. Ah, okay. And I actually found this very interesting because of the format. It's very widescreen.
Yeah, it's widescreen for no reason. It's letterboxed, you could say. Letterboxed on your already widescreen monitor, so it's even wider. So it has like this feature film wideness to it, which not even like anime feature films have.
But it makes a convenient place to stick some of the subtitles, man, let me tell you.
So this what is it? It's an erotic game adaptation. The artwork is by Akio Watanabe. You know, he's the Bakemonogatari animation character designer, and he's done a lot of other stuff like Popotan and whatnot, Soul Taker, and he's also the animation supervisor and animation character designer for the anime. So it really, really looks like his stuff. But at the same time, it's not made by Shaft, so I'm not used to it. Because when I see his character designs, I immediately think of like Bakemonogatari or some sort of pre-Shaft Akio Watanabe type thing, like a Akio Kishimbo type thing, like the Soul Taker. But Grisaya no Kajitsu is very straightforward in its visual storytelling. It's almost visual novel-esque. There's not a lot of like weird or abstract or like funny elements to it in terms of like visuals that you would expect from Shaft, because it doesn't come from Shaft. And yeah, it's like widescreen for no reason. There's no reason for it to be super widescreen. It just is. Because there are ways that you can take advantage of widescreenness. And it's useful if you're doing like an epic film or a western or something that has like epic vistas and whatnot, like scrolling landscapes. Grisaya doesn't have that. It takes place in a school formerly for girls, but now they have one guy, so it's like a school of like 5 or 6 girls or something, and one guy. It's weird. Like there's something wrong with this school. There's something wrong with those girls. There's something wrong with that guy who appears to be like a hitman.
Yeah.
And we don't know why he's at the school.
To live a normal life.
So I'm watching this because it seems like something's going to go down. Like they haven't shown the cards yet, but something's going to happen. I think. I hope.
Mm-hmm. So one thing I did want to mention, which was one of the characters is really. Oh man, every single time she's on the screen, she makes me laugh. The yellow-haired character. It's like open to her, the little Ahoget, you got the Twin Tails, you got the Shimapan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, it's like she's like trying to combine everything into her own little personality. It's hilarious to see how she's doing that. That's one of the funnest things that's been in the show for me, and that's why I keep on watching it, to see a little more of her. While the mystery and stuff is kind of fun, I was actually kind of surprised with how perverted some of the stuff in the shows. And I know you said it came from the game, but sometimes you can take that stuff out and still have a good show.
Nah, what are you talking about? You know, when I first watched this show, it did kind of immediately strike me of like a mix of something like Bakemonogatari and one from a few seasons ago called Akumano Riddle, which was like a school of assassins, um, based around this kind of riddle plot thing. But you know, we only are aware of like the military training of the main protagonist so far in it. Um, but I think that's kind of why I really like this show. He's always got the super serious facade on, the way he analyzes kind of situations. It really kind of takes me back to character types from like the Full Metal Panic. Like he is kind of like that dude, just in more of a an eroge harem anime show, and with a lot better kind of character design. But on an interesting kind of note, although this one does not come out of Shaft, it actually kind of surprised me because Bushido Road got their name in it, and Bushido Road usually grabs everything Shaft related. So practitioners of like the Weiss Schwarz card game will be happy to probably see this thing in at least a Japanese release. I'm not quite sure about an English release as of yet, but I kind of found it interesting how it does have such apparent strong ties to Shaft that, it's out of like a super mixed studio right now. I don't know, like, is there like a main producer of this right now? Would it be like the Frontier Works, or I don't know. There's like a whole lot of producers on it from the side I'm looking at right now, but
I think the lead studio is called 8-Bit or something. I
yeah.
don't actually know. I don't know them like offhand.
Hmm.
And the director goes by the name Tensho. Just I don't know who he is either. So I really can't say much about this from like a staff or studio perspective, other than Akio Watanabe, the character designer, who's immediately apparent when you start watching the show.
Yeah.
So I said that there was all this like mysterious stuff like bubbling underneath the surface, but the surface itself is just kind of like fan service heavy, sort of self-referential, self-aware otaku humor. So just like panty shots everywhere. There's a tsundere character, and the first thing the main character says to her is "You're a tsundere," and that gets her all like flustered, and I don't know. I don't really find that sort of stuff that funny. Like the only time the show really made me laugh was when he was like naming each twin tail, like Alpha, Bravo, and then the Ahoge was Charlie. It's like, okay, now, and they were doing something with a cat, but he was like, okay, now attack with Bravo, now attack with Charlie.
I think it was
And she was just like whipping her
he was
hair
saying
all over the place.
like mango or citrus or something was like naturally a natural cat repellent. She's like, oh, I use that in my shampoo.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Then use your hair. We shall call this operation.
But otherwise, it sort of takes me out of the moment all the time. The humor, just for how sort of self-aware and otaku it is.
Hmm.
It like goes too far, and it just takes me out.
I don't know. I'm heavily enjoying it. It's probably one of the episodes I most look forward to each week, I'd say, personally.
Hmm.
I guess I just kind of like that overbearing otaku humor, though.
Yeah.
Triple U 5, so did you drop this?
Hmm?
Okay.
To catch up. Thought I had 1 hour more, or 1.5 hour more.
Yeah, there was an episode today. I didn't watch it yet.
Yeah. I certainly think that Grisaya is very unique, and the visual novel is not popular for a reason. There's even an English fan translation out, I think. And I certainly know there are multiple people in my friend circle that really watched forward to having this coming, being an anime. And this aspect ratio is certainly a thing that makes us very unique with otaku humor, making it a little bit darker, more serious in a way. But as well, yeah, I like the plot a lot. I certainly like how they include such scenes without being, yeah, don't know. I think they have some very perverted things in there, and a lot of people continue to watch it. That's kind of awesome.
I'm not going to drop it yet.
Yet.
Not yet,
Yeah.
because I'm waiting for it to shift gears. But if it doesn't do that soon, then I'll probably drop it in one or two episodes. That's my feeling about it.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the next title real quick here. This one, another 5. Amagi Brilliant Park. Oh man, when I was watching this show, this picture here is what got me. This little character.
Speaking of Full Metal Panic, holy crap.
Yeah. Certainly is the correct anime to speak about. Amage Brilliant Park is certainly one of the shows I really look forward to the next episode each week, because there's one KyoAni show that I certainly follow from the start to the end. I think it's so interesting. I dropped everything else done by KyoAni in the last seasons, I think, and this one really catched me. And with this Fumufu stuff and magical things happening, yeah, it's kind of interesting and has a lot of fan service in it. But I don't think that's at least bad. But we knew that fan service is coming. And the story itself is quite compelling, I think. It's at least a little bit more interesting than anything else I've watched by KyoAni this year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I was a little tiny bit on the fence with it at first, but it quickly worked its way up to be pretty high in my list. It has references kind of here and there, and just tons of humor just packed into it. We have the Fumofu character. We have like a Maimi or a Mami from Madoka Magica. Her power is like blatantly ripped off in this series so far, and it again follows that kind of more cynical lead character who has an amazing sense of leadership when it comes to. He's basically handed this theme park that is home to. You can think of them as like deities, but they're kind of more like visitors from an alternate world dimension thing, and
they're all like fairies from Fairyland, right?
Right.
The premise is the fairies from Fairyland are actually running this theme park, and they're doing a really bad job of it.
But they have to be noticed by the public. That's like what they feed off of. That's their energy. That's what keeps them around. And they have a really run-down version of a theme park here. And I gotta say, the antics of every episode are really fun. I like the expressions of the characters. And at the end of every episode, we're greeted by this screen that shows you, how many visitors visited the park that day, how closer they are to their total, how many more customers they need in order to save their park, and how many days closer to the deadline they are, how many more days they have to go. And one of the interesting notes, I haven't been talking a lot about the openings here, is the opening didn't really kind of grab me in this one, and it really surprised me because I saw the name of who did it. It was Akino with Bless 4, who basically did almost like a lot of the soundtrack for the more recent Aquarian Evol, and I really liked a lot of the music that came out of it. And I don't know if they just simply did the opening and weren't going to like compose a whole lot for a lot of the series, but I like that Aquarian opening. In this one, I don't have any special feelings toward, and I'm all sad because I liked her as an artist. But the ending sequence is actually really artistic. It almost has a stained glass appearance, and I'm really drawn to that too. So I think Sean wanted to talk really quickly about a lot of the character names that him and someone had a discussion with on a Google Chat hangout.
Oh my God. No, it was like a couple of tweets that one of the fan subbers tweeted, and he was pointing out that all the characters, or no, not all the characters, 4 of the characters are named after rappers. Because there's Princess Latifah, of course. That's self-explanatory. There's a Kanye Sento or something, and you sort of look Seiya, and you look at the kanji, and you're like, that's Kanye West. And there's Ice Cube, straight up. And what is it, like Sento Izusu or something? And you look at the kanji for that, it's 50 Cent.
Mm-hmm.
So Ice Cube, Queen Latifah, Kanye West, 50 Cent. Why are they named that? Why aren't they all like rapping in the end credit sequence? Why aren't they actually played by Kanye West and 50 Cent and Queen Latifah? I want to see a dub of the anime. It's those 4. Just like all rappers across the board.
They have to act on their own character names. That would be gold right there.
Yeah. Snoop Dogg can play like one of the cute fairies.
Who commonly are seen guzzling beer in your local Japanese shop.
It's a pretty entertaining show. I'm kind of surprised because it didn't look that great. And yeah, just hearing about the premise, and, I just sort of look at it and shrug. But in practice, it's actually pretty entertaining, and I don't really know why. It just is. That something really interesting about this series is it's actually an adaptation of a Kadokawa property. So Kadokawa, they also did Hyoka and Suzumiya Haruhi. They're a big media company, Kadokawa. They do films and books and all kinds of stuff. So that the last time KyoAni did an adaptation of something that did not belong to them was Hyoka. And then everything after that, Chunibyo, Free, Tamako Market, Kyokai no Kanata, those were all KyoAni original works. Like they either came up with the premise at KyoAni or they were based on light novels published by KyoAni. So that was like their indie phase, and that role that they were on is broken by Amagi Brilliant Park. So that's kind of interesting. I thought they were never going to do they were never going to do contracted works ever again, but here comes Amagi Brilliant Park. Now, I guess people can fantasize about them doing another Suzumiya Haruhi or something. But yeah, that's just an interesting thing to notice. And, it has like a little bit more service than the usual like KyoAni type thing, because like during the KyoAni phase, like their shows are pretty tame, like in terms of service and whatnot. But I think in the most recent episode of Amagi Brilliant Park, the 4 girls are being paraded around in bikinis, or maybe it was 2 episodes ago. I can't remember.
I think it was just the one.
But yeah, it's fun. One of the things that I find interesting about the premise of the show is that it's about an amusement park that's failing. And amusement parks are kind of interesting in Japan. That they built a lot of them during the height of the Japanese bubble. Like this was the height of the Japanese economy before it collapsed in the early 90s. And they built a lot of them to sort of attract people from the city back to the suburbs and to the countryside. So it was always a ploy to like build one of these, but it usually didn't work. So the Japanese landscape is dotted with just sort of like abandoned theme parks. And I even like followed a blog for a while that's basically all he did. He like visited the countryside, and he would always run into these like abandoned theme parks. And they just have like nonsense themes and whatnot. Where when you can look at them and be like, yeah, that it's pretty clear why they failed. Like this park didn't make any sense. So it's kind of interesting to see a theme park, like a failing theme park, being the topic of an anime series, and the protagonist is tasked with making this theme park successful somehow. And yeah, I don't think there's any like grand social commentary behind Amagi Brilliant Park, but it is a weird topic.
Mm.
So not the most obvious thing to make an anime series about, but they're doing it, and it's pretty fun actually.
Alright, just a quick thing. I bet a lot of you guys have already noticed. I mean, I've been seeing it all over the place, but everyone's been making a big deal of Mofu being voice acted by the same person that did Saber.
Hmm.
And I don't know why that's become so big. There's a lot of drawings, a lot of people posting about it that I've read. But overall, as I'm watching the show, it's been pretty fun. I do get kind of messed up with it, with how the character in certain angles looks like others within KyoAni. And like especially what's his name, Sento?
What's the girl's name?
Or no, what's the guy's name?
Kanye West.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll see him in a certain position. I'm like, and I'll instantly think of Hyoka and that one character. So it throws me off a little bit, and I'm like, but overall, it's been pretty fun. Tripoli, did you say anything about this? Or?
I already did. Did I? Did I? It's a great show. Watch it. It's suddenly unique.
Mm.
That's not my top of the season, but it's alright. I'm gonna watch it.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next title. What is this called again? Electric Town Bookstore, or Dengeki Gai no Honyasan?
That's Denki Guy no Honya-san.
I don't even know why I tried now. But this show is really strange and really awkward. How do I say it? I think it's just the designs. I know I should be used to these childlike characters being portrayed as adults, but it still throws me off sometimes in this show. And when they put in certain situations, I'm like, whoa. But
Especially when they don't tell you that they're 16 yet. But, yeah.
But overall, it's been pretty fun, and it makes me really want to check out a bookstore in Japan. See how some of these things are.
I do not think that any of them are run like by this cast, man.
Oh no, it's gotta be. It's gotta be, man. You wouldn't show this if it wasn't true.
Yeah. I mean, I've taken a liking to this series. I'm definitely going to be following it to the end, but I've actually kind of noticed a lot of the episodes are rather inconsistent with each other. Like, there's going to be some really good humor-packed episodes, and then, like, the next episode would center around a different character, and this show produces scenes every once in a while that I just kind of have to show people because they're just that absurd, and I know people are going to react to them, and sometimes I look forward to grabbing that newest episode and waiting for a scene to hit, and it's like that scene never comes, but like in the episode just prior, there was like 4 or 5 moments that I want to show off, but and just to see like how what people thought of it. So I don't know what exactly is up with that fluctuation, but it's definitely an interesting show that I'll at least be following till its very end.
I'm just going to read this right off Wikipedia. So, it depicts slice of life stories about a group of characters who work in a fictional dojin shop called Uma no Hone, or the Horse's Bone, a reference to the real life dojin shop Tora no Ana, the Tiger's Lair. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. That it is actually based on or it refers to an actual shop in Akihabara. I've actually ordered from Tora no Ana before. I actually I stopped watching the show at episode 2 because it was such a shift. So episode 1 was about working at the bookstore. They encountered a like government regulation official who came in to check like were the adult materials being labeled and separated properly. And then we discover that one of the workers at the bookstore is also a trying to be a manga author. So a bunch of the characters like go to her crib and like help her finish her manga. And it seemed like a pretty promising start. And then episode 2 was about like nonsense sports day in Akihabara, and it was just like all
No,
fan service.
it wasn't
like,
nonsense sports day. It was otaku sports day. It was intentionally themed for the deviant otaku.
It was 100% bullshit, and I stopped watching the show right there because I didn't. I don't know. I don't know what the show's trying to be.
Shit.
Because I thought it was going to be like another Genshiken or something. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll watch that. And then episode 2 happened. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Oh, don't you like the how do they say it, like Romaro or something? Romeo, the reference to like the zombie thing. I was cracking so hard. But yeah, I mean, I have developed a small interest in some of the personalities of the characters, and I do like the comedic plot that they're always placed in. I have noticed that there's each episode seems vastly different than the one before, so I just kind of want to know. I want more to come out so I can give it an overall kind of value as to whether it was super eccentric or 50-50, or while it had its eccentricities, it was rather on the tame side. But it's definitely something I'll be watching. So.
Triplet?
I must agree. I wanted to drop it after the second episode, but I kind of warmed up again after the second episode with the third one, and kind of thought, well, it was kind of rescued. Just you can't skip the second episode. It isn't that important. Otaku Sports Day is something new, but I just think it might have been a special or UVA, just something story relevant. Nothing. But overall, the comedy is great, except for the Otaku Sports Day one. And yeah, it's kind of strange to explain how it warms one up to someone. If you just kind of, yeah, you watch it and the comedy gets you, and yeah, something to watch on the side. Hopefully, it can still get better. I think some romance elements, some comedy elements.
Alright, just give me 1 second here. I'm going to add someone here. Looks like Johnny's available. There we go. What's the next title that we got? Ooh, that one. That one's really good. Fate Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works. Very, very pretty.
What I noticed when being in Kassel at a convention, um, they said they had at least twice the budget from the last Fate series. That's kind of strange to hear, but it seems like it. At least visuals seem quite good.
This one actually started kind of really interesting. It started on an episode 0, which followed a different character's perspective, and then throughout the rest of the series, episode 1 repeats the events that happened on day 0 there, and we kind of go off back with our usual protagonist, but I just found it interesting how they did start with such a change of pace. I don't think I've ever seen them kind of do anything like that before. It brought an interesting kind of feel to this, like almost readaptation of the Fate Stay Night, because I think the story is Fate Stay Night happened, and then there was a game or some other media called Unlimited Blade Works, which they also did an OVA on a while ago, and I think this is kind of like a merging of the two storylines, the original Fate Stay Night with that Unlimited Blade Works route they went with for that one OVA, and this seems like a solid adaptation of that, is what I'm assuming, but I'm not like the most hardcore fan of the series, so I'm not 100% sure, but that's just what I think's going on.
Okay, so Unlimited Blade Works is one of the routes in Fate Stay Night, the visual novel.
Ah.
And that route was adapted into a feature film by Studio Dean a few years ago, and is confusing because it has the exact same name. It's called Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. And this new TV series, also titled Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, is made by a different studio. It's not a feature film. The problem with that movie, which I saw, is that it made no fucking sense. It was they had to cover like so many plot points in 2 hours. It was just a blur. Like I had no idea what was going on. You know, it's like the only way you could have a sliver of a chance of decoding that thing is if you actually played the game and like, you know, did the whole Unlimited Blade Works route. And which I haven't, so it was just like complete nonsense to me. This TV show is awesome. It is a 100% blockbuster. Like,
Yeah.
every episode is so exciting. It's just, oh my god, it looks better than like most movies. It does look a little bit better than even Fate Zero. So you know the budget has not gone down. I think it's gone up. And yeah, then the storytelling is really strong. Like I'm actually following what's going on. It's not an incomprehensible blur to me. The character motivations, you know, seem clear enough. I do want to see the characters get fleshed out, but I'm sure they will. It's got plenty of a runtime, right? Because I think it's going to be 2 seasons, you know, 2 core or whatever.
It actually isn't finalized as far as its episode count's concerned, but I would assume at least 2.
And in Fate Zero, the first episode was an hour long. In Fate Stay Night UBW, the first 2 episodes are an hour long. You know, which is awesome. I wish they were all an hour long, but maybe next time. But yeah, this is the HBO of like anime. This Unlimited Blade Works. It is like, I think this and Shirobako are like the things I'm most excited about. Those are my number ones of the season.
All right. Let's see. Is Johnny there?
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I know. Finally made it because it worked with my schedule a little bit because I was just at work.
So have you seen Fate Stay Night yet?
I haven't watched anything or related to it, so it's not for me to discuss.
The hell's wrong with you? So you, you don't need to see Fate Zero to watch Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works.
Oh,
Because
really?
Fate Zero is actually the prequel that came out after Fate Stay Night.
So
So
do I need to see Fate Stay Night to see Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Work?
Yeah,
So-
you can watch them all absolutely independently. They're self-sufficient stories.
yeah,
Oh, that's cool. I'll put it on my list then because it sounds really good.
yeah, and if you like it, you can go watch Fate Zero, or you can watch them at the same time.
Sometimes they
on Netflix right now.
sometimes they do reference events that did happen in Fate Zero, but I mean they do cover it for people who not. I mean, it's not like you had to see the series to know what they were talking about. You get what they're getting at. So
Yeah, there are definite connections there if you've seen the prequel. But I think it's really made so that you can just go in cold. Like
Yeah.
that's a valid experience too, because Fate Stay Night was the first one, and then Fate Zero came after actually.
yeah, and this is like an alternate storytelling of the first one. Cool.
All right, should we move on, or does anyone else have anything else to say?
I just got to say that, Calafina's right back with this one. They tend to stick towards the more epic series, and they're right there for the ending theme. So
But
I think there's some fans from them that.
just one other thing I want to say about the show. There's one thing I kind of dislike about it, and that's the fact that when it gets to the end, I'm like, what? It doesn't seem long enough. I mean, it's one of those shows as you're watching, you're like, wait, did really this much time pass? And it kind of upsets me, but it's beautiful and awesome.
It'll never be long enough. There's no such thing.
One day, once it's all out, marathon it, have fun.
Hmm.
All right, let's go to the next title, which hasn't really changed too much. I was surprised. It looks almost exactly like the old one. Log Horizon.
Yes, and I just wanted to kick it off with, holy crap, this is probably the only anime that I know that after a split season has stuck with its initial opening. I mean, we've got updated graphics for it, but that song does definitely never get old, so I'm kind of happy to see it back, and I do kind of miss the ending. I think I liked the original ending a little bit better than this one, but hey, database is still around and
Kicking.
so yeah, it pretty much does pick up a little while after where the first one left off, and we have a totally new storyline, of course, with going up here and there. One thing that I felt a little odd about it is for the first couple episodes they were kind of skipping around a timeline, and you start with you start in this like full raid event, and then part like a couple battle scenes in, they're like let's start explaining how we got here, and that's not the Log Horizon I was kind of really used to. I kind of wish they rather kept things linear, and I don't know. I just felt that method of storytelling was kind of odd for them. But I mean, Log Horizon is still Log Horizon, and if you're a fan, it's Log Horizon.
Yeah, it's very good. It's still pretty fun, and with the new season, we've just had a bunch of new characters introduced, and they're still just as great and just as interesting as the first crew. So I'm kind of I'm with this. It's really been nice to me.
think some of the characters even showed signs of aging.
Aging? Really?
A little bit.
Well, maybe I haven't just gotten to see that part yet, but the show though, definitely you have to kind of watch the first season to understand a lot of what's going on. So, unlike some other shows, after the break, it's pretty fun to pick up. But the first season is just as great, so it should be no problem picking up the first season to catch up on this. And I'm actually kind of sad with the lack of Akatsuki, but so that's why I tend to watch the whole ending to the end. You have anything to add, AAA?
Actually, I kind of skipped episode 2. I was watching episode 1 and kind of clicked on episode 3 and missed episode 2 and watched episode 2 after episode 3. And I was like, well, that kind of makes sense now. But yeah, I think after the final chapter in Lock Horizon 1, Lock Horizon 2 couldn't catch up on the fun I had with the show, and I hope it will steadily rise again as Lock Horizon 1. But yeah, I kind of want to adjust my glasses right now, but I don't wear them.
You do air megane. You could.
I could just get my glasses and adjust them, but that kind of don't work. It's still awesome, but not as high on my list as other very good anime this season. Could grow over time again, as this first season. Yeah.
So that's one thing I actually have to agree with Triply is that I know the last season it was on top of my list. I was watching every week. It was great. But this season, even though it's just as good, it's been pushed back by a lot of other great titles out there. And but I would still highly recommend this to a lot of people who enjoy action, especially this one. This one seems to be a little more action-oriented than the others, the other season. So it's been fun with that and seeing how I've never really been into the mass multiplayer online game, so them explaining certain things was kind of interesting. I could understand my friend a little bit more. Who knows? Especially about the raids. I've never really understood raids. I just know we spent like hours and hours away. But that's been pretty fun. So anyone else to add? Or
I just like some of the mechanics they introduced, especially the character who like hangs around Naotsugu. She's kind of an interesting tidbit to the story now.
all right, let's go ahead and then move on to the next title. Psycho Pass 2.
That one's not even in my kana.
Psychopaths too.
Some of the thing that Tenkun kind of missed. So.
I think you did that intentionally, but I enjoyed the laughs.
Yeah.
Hard to tell.
All right. Let me start off by saying that Psycho Pass 2 is. So the first series was made by Production IG. It was made at Production IG. It was written by Gen Urobuchi, who's as famous as he is infamous.
Mm-hmm.
I actually consider the original Psycho Pass to be Gen Urobuchi's like best thing in terms of writing. You know, in terms of its like sci-fi ideas, it's his most like intellectual and ambitious thing. But anyway, Psycho Pass 2, is actually they switched studios, so they're making it at Tatsunoko. The same directors though, but they also changed the writer. It's
That's
oh man,
interesting.
what's his name? What's his name? I can't remember his name, but he's the guy who did Murdoch Scramble and Ghost in the Shell Arise. So, it seems suitable enough, right? So, from the 3 episodes that I've seen of Psycho-Pass 2, I'm kind of worried that it's just going to be a retread of the original Psycho-Pass. They introduced like yet another villain who has discovered some way to evade the Psycho-Pass scanner, right? So he's able to like create followers that can sort of be invisible terrorists because they can't be scanned. And so Akane is like the new chief of investigations. I don't really know the full title offhand, but she's the new big boss, and she answers directly to the civil system. And she's got her new crew, and they're trying to catch the bad guy, and yeah, I don't know yet. I mean, one of the defining features of Psycho-Pass, the original, was that it was a direct satire of Japanese society. That every episode was not just about its own thriller plot; it was a commentary. It was saying things about what's right and wrong about Japanese society, and it had all these grand ideas and criticisms and whatnot that made it really interesting. It was a show that was interesting in its metaphors. And I'm not yet convinced that Psycho-Pass 2 is going to have that same quality to it. That's yet to be seen. It's not. Psycho-Pass 2 is not an episodic series where the original Psycho-Pass had these like mini arcs before it kicked into the main story, but it seems like Psycho-Pass 2 just has a main story and it's just like kicked into that like immediately. So I sort of need to see this whole arc to really judge it. But so far as a sequel to Psycho-Pass, it's suitable. It's the story is reasonably interesting, if kind of a little too similar to the first one.
So, real quick question, because I've never really watched Psycho-Pass, but I know they released Psycho-Pass the Extended, or whatever that was. Is it going off of what that was, or is that the same as the other 2 courses?
The extended version is just a reworked version. As we know, the first season on its original run had quite a lot of problems with like quality scenes. Yeah, they had animation problems in the original run, and they were corrected. The extended version has some additional scenes, but I don't know how much. They're not that much longer.
Yeah, I didn't watch the extended version either, so I don't actually know what's different about it versus the Blu-ray version of the original series.
Yeah, I haven't watched it either. So
I think I've only heard like tidbits on the internet, people saying that it's not that significant.
So, because I was just wondering, because it seems like, wasn't the original one 2 cores, and then the other one is just 1?
Yeah, each episode was an hour long in the extended version.
Oh, okay.
So that's how that worked.
Yeah, I just watched the one that was whatever one was on Netflix. I guess the regular version, not the extended, because they're generally 26-minute episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the difference. Apparently, it just adds like extra bits, like extra scenes or something, like an addition, and like up the animation quality. That's what I've read, at least, about the extended version. Though I don't know too much to add to it.
Although Tankun, I gotta say, I'm impressed. I thought you watched every show that happened to have a song by like Egotist or composed by Rio from like Supercell, which this show totally has.
Yes.
But anyway, No, yeah, Psychopaths 2, I was interested in where they were going to continue the story from the first one, because of how that all ended. And as Sean already said, we found the identity of the syllable system, and I was kind of wondering how it would let Akane operate. Like, would they continue to police her heavily, or would they treat her as a super special exception that can work alongside the syllable? And that's really what I want to see come out of this series. However, I do like how she was essentially raised to like the lead position of the investigators, and her new subordinate, who's also an investigator, who's heavily to the book, and you know, our main protagonist Akane here is all about figuring people out and trying to benefit society. She looks at what these people are going through, and she's drawing correlations and conclusions, and she's ultimately trying to think about what's best, which is in a heavy contrast to her new subordinate that believes everything needs to be done by the book. That's how the system works. The system is for the best. And, you know, she's gone as far as to calling Akane, not to her face or anything, but simply believing that she is wrong. So I kind of want to see how the two are going to operate together, you know, with that much of a contrast between both of the opinion types. And she's rather close-minded, this new subordinate. Will she see Akane's teachings eventually, or you know, how will that spin the story? I'm almost wondering if she's gonna like end up getting encompassed by like the bad guys of this season. But
One of the interesting qualities of Akane that sort of makes her an ideal leader in this particular society, that's based on psychopaths, which is like a measurement of like how likely you are to commit a crime, but also how likely you are to subvert the power system. You know, which is the other really, which is the really insidious thing about the psychopaths, right?
Mm.
It's like measuring how much faith you have in the system of government is essentially what it's doing. So Akane is like she's got such a hold of her psychopaths, like she knowing what the system is, like knowing how horrific it is, she willingly upholds its legitimacy. Like she fights for the system, even though she knows what it is, and that's why her psychopath is like infallible. And you know, all in episode 3, she like meets this intellectual. You know, because like intellectualism is dangerous, right? Because if you're like too thoughtful, if you're too knowledgeable and thoughtful, then you have a cloudy psychopath, because then you know that like this society is corrupt. So she goes to talk with this intellectual, and the person who sort of accompanied her was like, okay, I'm just gonna go wait outside, because she's scared, right? It's like, if I talk to this intellectual, then my psychopath is going to go into the red. But you know, Akane is like the only person who can really engage with, you know, intellectuals, and sort of because she, you know, because of her willpower, right? That makes her kind of an interesting character. That she can do things and engage with ideas that the other characters can't, because they're just too scared.
you know, there is one more aspect to the story that I kind of wish to spoil, to hopefully hook anyone who's on the fence about continuing into Psychopaths 2. And these events are readily revealed in like the first few episodes, but in the first season, we had a group of individuals who were able to subvert the system by wearing a specialized helmet, and that basically allowed them to commit crimes. And as Sean was kind of saying, in this series, whether by a fluid injection or some other means of medication, individuals are able to exhibit a random or a rapid psychopath kind of cooling down. They can be assaulting someone, and the system will read them as not a threat, which is kind of like inconceivable from everyone who watched the rest of the first season. And I kind of found it interesting how there was a character who was perceived as kind of a ghost, and that's really what I really want to watch this one for, is how is this character so transparent that they're going beyond this level of clear psychopaths, like what is special about them? That is a mystery that I really wish that they elaborate very well.
So I just remember the name of the writer. It's To Ubukata, who is doing Psychopaths 2. And then Gen Urobuchi is going to do the feature film finale to Psychopaths after this. And he said at some event, he said, like, don't blame me for what happens in Psychopaths 2. That's all on To Ubukata. So my perspective in watching Psychopaths 2 is going to be like a long and elaborate side story. And then for Psychopaths 1, I hope they bring back some of the critical characters who vanished in the first season, so they can wrap up that whole thing.
All right. Go ahead, unless Triple has something to say.
Yeah,
You said something.
I totally feel the same as Sean. I would like to have some characters appear again. The current has a different kind of feel, but it's not bad, and I really like watching it as it is. But it's not as deep as the first season was, so I'm kind of disappointed. But that's sort of that.
Yeah, I'm still giving it a chance, because it's so early and it's still establishing a lot of ideas. So you just have to see where it goes. But so far it's all right. It seems like a fine follow-up.
All right, let's go to our next title, which kind of surprised me. I picked it up after reading a few posts. What is this? Shingeki no Bahamut Genesis?
Favreau!
Yellow. Let me make it yellow. Yeah.
Kaiser! Anyway, I don't know exactly what was said in the synopsis of this thing, if they just simply read the summary of the story. But let me actually kind of elaborate on this one just a tiny little bit. From a long time ago, which one of the beginning apps to start what I commonly call a card battling, Android, iPhone app game thing, Rage of Bahamut was one of the first that I remember seeing in the Android market. Probably not the first, but it was there a long time ago. It's been running for a very long time. And I tried it out once, and I actually didn't like its interface. It seemed kind of too clunky and outdated, and there's a lot of newer out there. And, it's not very common to see an anime adaptation from one of those games. Two examples would have been that Zettai Buhi, I believe, Leviathan from many seasons ago, and also the Sengoku collection, I believe it was called, were similar, Japanese only, not American translated that time around. With iOS, mobile games that you play on your phone and, make friends and just waste a lot of time and hopefully money in. And I didn't think that those adaptations were all that great. I didn't really watch the Sengoku collection. I watched what I called the moe-filled Zettai Buhi Leviathan because it only had those characters. It didn't really try to inspire anything else except just the design. But this show is a shining example of what needs to be done for these games, or maybe not needs to be done. I just think this is it's highly cinematic. I don't even know what production value went into it. I mean, it's not on par with Fate Stay Night, I would say, but it's probably
nothing is.
it's
Nothing
probably
is
the next. It's probably the next best this season, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And it by far has took me the most by surprise, and I can honestly say this one series is probably the most I look forward to in every next season. I was kind of really worried that, after such a big hook in the first episode, it would kind of fall short on many of the following episodes, but, right now we're 3-4 episodes in, and I'm still really liking the series. So.
Hey, Nick, just real quick, during our whole synopsis and video, honestly, the synopsis we got was based on the card game. That's all it said.
Very nice.
But now that it's been aired, they got this whole thing on there now, so. But that's one pretty funny thing.
This is for sure the most inexplicable anime of the whole season. Why is it so awesome? It's so awesome. But why? It's like based on this Android card game. Where did they just basically threw like just bags of money at like the right people, and they made something incredible. So this comes from Mappa. That's like Maruyama's new studio. They did what was it? Zankyo no Terror last season. The director is the guy who did Karis and Asura, and I haven't seen Tiger and Bunny, but he did that one too. And he also did probably like the most expensive feature anime film ever, which is Saint Seiya: Legend of Sanctuary, which is going to hit Japanese home video pretty soon, so we can finally see that. But anyway, they got him to do this Shingeki no Bahamut Genesis TV anime. And every episode is like a Hollywood blockbuster. It's so much fun, It just follows some adventurers, just adventuring through, typical fantasy land. And they go to a new place, and there's just like gobs of design, and then there's like action set pieces, and it's all like really creative and fun. It's a lot like watching like a good Hollywood blockbuster. It delivers all those notes. But I don't know. I can't explain this anime. It's just like super wicked awesome for no reason. And I'm never gonna play the Android game. I'm sure watching this anime just like beats the pants out of whatever experience that game can deliver.
Right. I think they very loosely lose some of the more mob characters and like higher level things from the show and into the set pieces. But again, I never got too far with it, nor do I know the rarity of anything. But this show is.
Yeah, it kind of. I don't know anything about the original game, but I get the impression that it might be like Magic: The Gathering or something.
Oh no.
No, I mean not in terms of gameplay, but just in terms of like the material that the creators of the TV show have to work with. They're just given these cards, and they've just got like fantasy creatures on them. Yeah, it's like, okay, what are we gonna do? Okay, we're just gonna make like a fantasy adventure anime, and every episode we're gonna like show off the creatures from these cards, and we're gonna come up with some action set piece involving them, and some adventure and whatnot. So. It's kind of weird to hear that like this Android card game anime thing is awesome, but I guess as a source material it must be pretty loose. So they just threw money at talented people and they came up with something really good.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I kind of think that Shingeki no Bahamut is something like Cowboy Bebop with no Cowboy Bebop elements, just being as awesome and free to do as they want. And yeah, it's really, really awesome to watch it. As we had at the start, Favreau and Kaiser, these both characters are just going well together, and some scenes like riding on what was it? A water wheel through a
Yeah.
city. That was kind of
Yeah.
really
I was kind of like, what's this mill wheel doing in the middle of this road? But whatever.
Yeah, the water wheel was rolling down the streets, and they were on top of it, like sword fighting. It was some Pirates of the Caribbean type shit. It was really awesome.
You know, the funny thing is these characters actually do remind me of something like out of a feature, like a Disney feature film. Like they just have that attitude element to them. Like
Hmm.
Captain Jack Sparrow is like totally viewable, like in a lot of the personalities of these characters. So, and that's not a personality type that I'm used to emerging out of anime. So,
Yeah, it's
totally
cool.
watch it.
Yeah,
It's
it definitely takes more out of like Hollywood than it does modern anime.
hmm.
So each episode is like your little slice of Hollywood.
All right. Did you want to add anything else, Triple? So, I don't know who it was, but someone had made some posts and made me wonder, what is this show really about? And decided to pick it up, and then that's when I started fitting certain things together, like your Favreau thing. I honestly didn't know what that was too, but later on, like, oh, okay. So I haven't caught up yet, but I'm hoping to catch up soon. And it seems pretty interesting, pretty fun, and a lot of the humor in there is really great to me, especially his, "Hey, do these eyes look like I'm lying?" type of thing. But I'm just waiting to see how it turns out later on.
Yeah, that's also something I completely blanked on mentioning. When we're introduced to the main character of this show, he's like the most abnormal main character ever, with his like reddish afro hair and like a scar going right down the side of his face. Um, this one's also interesting because they have different elements employed. They'll commonly splatter the screen with like dust or dirt or whatever just happened in the scene. And whenever a new character is introduced, they have like graphics for their names that just like dynamically hit the screen. There's just so many like elements to the show that I'm just not used to seeing. So.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next title. Okay. Oh, this is definitely not Sean's thing.
totally not.
Trinity 7. Yay. I know a few people have been looking forward to this. Mike. It's very, very fun. I was actually pretty excited about it too once I heard about it. I've been reading the manga for quite a while, so as soon as it came out, it was fun. And one weird thing about it was, especially that first episode, it had this really weird way how they put it out, which is totally different from the rest of the series, but they kind of gave it this kind of like eerie feeling, this Halloween type of thing, almost. And I thought that was kind of fun, but of course, that's no way how the show's going to go. But the characters are great, but I do find that some of the art is lacking. Certain lines aren't finished drawn in certain places, but that's just me. But overall, it's been really, really great and really fun. And it actually follows the manga
Yeah.
pretty well. Triple A?
I'm pretty amazed by this anime. I'm a huge fan by the manga artist, not the writer, but the artist. But I still think that, as Tank said, there's a lack of some artworks. Even though the art in general is quite nice to look at. The backgrounds are certainly very nicely made, and yeah, animations are good too. Overall, I still think that the story for an anime is a little bit lacking for the kinds of like Sean. But the show might be one of the best harem shows one could watch as of today. And I hopefully see more of it soon. There are a lot of edgy elements. Yeah, I'm impressed by how tight they're following the manga. It's like every scene is made into the anime.
So, one quick thing, if no one's ever read the manga or hasn't watched this but thinking about picking it up, it is slightly perverted. It has quite a few mentions. I mean, maybe not really in the sense that they show a lot, but they talk a lot of pervertedness and talk about lewdness and things like that.
Well, it
That's
is
pretty cool.
really perverted. In the second episode, we had a like scene where they couldn't get out of the room, and one girl kind of had to visit the toilet, and she couldn't because she couldn't get out of the room, and because the other two girls didn't want her to be alone, they kind of hypnosed themselves, also wanting to go to the toilet. So it is kind of there are some edgy scenes coming out of this. It's really perverted in that sense.
What about you, Nick? What do you think?
You know, this show I'm kind of watching, but it so far, I only like it like a little bit above average. They're just really elusive with explaining a lot of kind of what's going on. I understand like our protagonist was kind of thrown into this magic world, and he's kind of like entry level, but everyone's praising him to have the potential of something much greater, and it's like he's already at the helm of these powers that are so massive and potentially out of control, but he's still much a rookie when it comes to it, and a lot of the explanations that are being offered I just wished were a little more in depth, as far as like how the world and the magic works. But I mean, as far as the animation with the character interactions, it's pretty par for the course.
It certainly lacks, considered the other shows airing this season.
But yeah, so far they've been like doing a different ending every episode, so that's been kind of cool.
Really haven't been watching that.
Yeah.
Once that ending credit comes up, I'm like, next show. But yeah, if you like harem shows, if you like action, magic type of things, hopefully some more will turn up. And I guess we should move on to the next title, right? I'll let Michael here tell you all about this. Talk your ear off.
Oh, yes, it's so great. It's the best shot I've ever seen, I think. It just catches everything, well, often an otaku life in one shot. Yeah.
All right, so let's move on. Oops, dragged it to the wrong section. What do you call this? Danna ga nani o iteiru ka wakaranai ken?
Yeah.
I can't understand what my husband is saying. I'm sorry, I'm reading this on a really small screen thing here. I'm having such a hard time. It's so long, it made it so small. So this is a short for the season. really great, really fun. It's what do you say? It's a 5 minute short, right?
Yep. I think 3 minutes or 3.5 minutes. Not that long.
Yeah, it's got a lot of what do you call those?
References, parodies.
Parodies, yeah, and also in little insert art cards like this one here.
Mm.
Like as I was trying to find a title shot, every single thing had like something else with the title in there, so I could pick almost any title I wanted from those little insert shots, but some were kind of vulgar, or at least I thought, especially with this character. What do you have to say about the show, Nick?
I love the comedy of it. I mean, I think it's like the embodiment of what every like young con-going otaku wants from like a future wife. uh, but I mean, the comedy's there. It does definitely do those parodying references, which I have enjoyed so much because I've seen a lot of the series, and I just kind of like how, again, we have that aspect of someone who has been an otaku for a while and someone who has been exposed to this otaku culture so late in life, not knowing a lot of the terms that seem so normal to all of us now. And I mean, just the animation quality is actually very nice. I do like the character design and just the general art of the series. For being rather slow paced. It's probably about the only thing that I don't like about this show, and it's not really a big pet peeve by any means, is the ending. I actually really don't like it.
I thought it
What
was
has happened?
awesome. Actually, watch it.
You actually watch it.
One thing that actually threw me off was I saw it. I remember watching the first episodes, and
And
I
she
was
had
like,
brown hair.
oh, yeah, her hair changed, her hair color. That threw me off at the beginning. I was like, wait a minute.
Kinpatsu later.
But one of the biggest running jokes I think on that show that's made me laugh, and is every time I'm like, well, what about your friends? They're all online.
Yeah.
So that's been pretty fun. It's a very short thing. Not much to say about this except for to watch it, right?
It rocked. It's impressive. Watch it.
I've
Yeah,
only,
like, huh?
I've only seen a couple episodes of this, but it really reminded me of that other anime, that other short gag anime that was just like this, but where the otaku husband was Hideaki Anno. So
Oh, you're talking about insufficient direction.
yeah, what was it, like Kantoku Fuyuki
Yeah,
Todoroki or something like that?
yeah.
Um,
You actually watch all that?
I saw like 4 episodes of it. It was kind of neat, but after a while it's like, okay, I get it.
That one had so much more of a serious tone, and this one's so much more of a comedy. It's like,
But I think it's because they're otaku of different generations, right? Where
right,
Hideaki
right.
Anno is this like
Kamen Rider.
1970s, 1980s like sci-fi and tokusatsu otaku,
Right.
where this otaku is like the modern like Bishoujo Moe type otaku.
Yes.
So it's interesting to see two shows, but they show like different eras of otakuism.
All right. I think we got enough time for another title here. Let's see here. Oh, that show. That show's really weird.
First,
Ooh, Shinawara deta mirai o momomete.
Motomete.
Let's see here. In search of the lost future.
Well, this show is kind of adapted from a visual novel, I think. And the first episode is just a bad end.
Yeah.
I kind of dropped
Dude.
it.
No. That first episode totally like immersed me into this series, and again, I don't was covered in the synopsis, but in the first episode, we witness a rather, as Tripley said, a unexpectedly dark and heavy scene that hits, and then something happens where we almost have this like time skip back to the past where events changed. In the very first episode, there is the sudden appearance of a unclothed female into this high school that has altered the events of that day. And while she has a heavy sense of amnesia at first, she's slowly remembering more and more about why she's here in this time. And this is a really odd show, in my opinion, because while the first episode kind of grabbed me, and I was hoping they'd do almost like a Steins Gate, an attempt to write the future by, attempting to avoid certain incidents, kind of paradoxical storytelling method. Instead, I was greeted with this episode 1 hook, and episode 2 and on is a rather laid back kind of slice of life story, and at the beginning of every day we're greeted with this like backslash and number as to what day it is, and I don't really know all the gimmicks at ploy here just quite yet. I don't know where this one's trying to end up. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of messing around with a timeline, but I do know that while I was interested in how heavy that first episode just hit at that one scene, I haven't been as happy with it as of late. Like that was definitely now you hooked me and you're losing me.
Something else that bothered me was like extensive use of CGI.
Really?
Most, yeah.
At times they'd be walking through the hallway and they would switch to like CGI representations of the characters, but that was again heavily prevalent in the first episode and not thereafter.
I think in the club room there were a lot of scenes where they switched the characters to CGI. The CGI was one of the better kinds, and this was like filtered over with something, so it looked like the drawings. So I'm kind of confused what was CGI, what was real drawings.
So is this the usual like background character crowd scene type things that they would use CG for?
No, it was like the person that was speaking was animated in CGI.
I never noticed that at all.
Yeah, it happened. I recall what he's talking about. Because I caught that too. I'm like, why did they use CGI here?
Weird.
Yeah, I have to agree with you guys on it's really heavy in the first episode, and I almost didn't want to watch the rest of this because of that.
Yeah, it's definitely laid back. I'm sure we'll get to tragic stuff later on.
Right, and that's what I'm hoping for.
I'm just gonna spoil a little bit of it, because it's just like first episode spoilers. There's a huge tragedy that occurs with one of the members in a school club at the end of the first episode, and then this naked girl just sort of appears at the school like she's fucking traveled back in time like the Terminator. And she doesn't remember much of what she's there to do, but she joins the club, and then she knows that like these pivotal moments are coming up, and she needs to like change history and prevent this tragedy from occurring. But aside from that, they do go through their like day-to-day, they do their club activities. I don't think it's a great show, but I like it because it has this sort of like old school visual novel vibe to it, where something like Grisaya no Kajitsu, like that's very like nth generation. It has a lot of postmodern referential humor to it, where Ushi na wareta mirai wo motomete, that whole thing, is pretty straightforward. It's like, it's just plainly straightforward in a way that I find kind of old school and refreshing. And and I actually enjoy its laid back quality. And they are setting up for tragedy. I remember one line where the characters were sort of talking about the importance of memory, but then the girl who traveled back in time said something to the effect of like, I don't have any use for such things. So, does she know that she has like a limited amount of time? Is she gonna like die in the last episode? I don't know, but it seems plausible.
What also piqued my curiosity as far as like spoilers go is there's this plot device that's like dangled right in front of our faces and we don't know what it is yet. Like one of the random club members has that like random cube structure that like illuminates and just like reacts to something, and it's like she's looking at it like either A doesn't know what it is, or B is like something from that summer anime where she's like secretly like the Men in Black agent or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal with that is. That like weird floating cube that they always tease in the eye catches, I think.
So,
Yeah.
oh, I was just going to say one of my biggest mysteries is I'm wondering if they will ever show Jennifer.
Oh God! Oh God! No!
Jennifer.
No!
That guy, they made him
That.
so ridiculous. He's actually really funny.
Yeah.
Just with his like constant English.
Yeah. Oh my God! And Jennifer, I don't even want to spoil it. Jesus Christ! I don't think I've ever seen that done in an anime before. That type of character fawn overed. I've seen what people would have mistaken her from fawned over, but not that.
Yeah, this show has one of those like kind of like sidekick characters, like not the main boy who everyone loves, but like his friend that everyone doesn't like. But except in this anime, they made him like so obnoxious that it's actually kind of hilarious. Like
Right.
he's just an utter cartoon character. And so it along with the like school club activities, day-to-day life kind of thing. There's also some mysteries at the school. So, it has an air of mystery. People are saying that they're seeing ghosts, so they spend some time trying to unsuccessfully find ghosts. And that probably has something to do with like the time traveling timeline type stuff. They haven't really explained it yet.
Yeah, and I also like how their club is supposed to be a planetarium or stargazing like club format, but it's kind of funny how the student body really reacts with them as like a student council disciplinary force.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, we're the planetarian club and we're here to settle some shit.
Yeah, so there's like what do they call that thing? The festival.
The culture fest. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's it, the culture festival. So the student council like hit them up with a bunch of responsibilities. So yeah. I don't know. I like it. Like I don't expect too much from it, so therefore I'm not very disappointed. It just sort of hits all these notes that I find nostalgic. It's straightforwardness. It's like air of mystery. The character designs are kind of old school. Like I think the protagonist just has like this really blue ass hair, like anime. There's this. So on top of the mystery, it also has this like wistful air. They're always talking about like memories and what could be, or that sort of stuff. I just like it. I wouldn't recommend it. I will watch it.
All right, anyone else got anything else to add? What's this next one here? Oh, that one. You know,
I think we should try and skip the ones that Albert's big on.
We've already got like most of them, I think.
I know that, like, well, I mean, Albert does the daily
Yes.
blogs for, or I mean, the weekly blogs for Battle.
how about the selector wise?
Selector spread, Wickraft.
Woodcross, I'm not sorry, not wise. Woodcross. Yeah. Battle.
Battle.
Are we gonna do that one then?
Do you want to do something else?
Alright. You can do that, right? Most of us have seen it except for Tripler.
Hmm?
So who wants to start on Woodcross?
Yeah, I'm not going to establish the premise of Wickraft, but I hope it doesn't turn out bad. I mean, it's fun so far, but we are in this awkward phase that the show is written by Mario Okada, who also did what's that fishy show with the fish people?
The not
Nagino
Naginas.
Asakata.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she did that, and like the second half of that show, the second series or the season or whatever, that had this. It took a long time to get going. Like the momentum was just like murdered, like right at the beginning, and it took forever to, get back up to pace. I hope Wickraft also doesn't suffer from that. It's sort of there because it opens in this state where the main character is like, I don't want to do any more battles, and she's just actively avoiding the card battles. But we know she's going to get sucked back into them eventually. We're just waiting for that to happen. And we're waiting for her resolve to come back, and for her to fight for something, or just fight because she's crazy and she loves battling, and she doesn't want to admit it. Either way. And one of the fun things about this show is, boy, I don't know how much spoiling I want to do, but while we're talking about the sequel, so there's a lot of body swapping going on.
Potential body swapping.
So, yeah, characters are now in other characters' bodies, and some characters who are now inside the cards and whatnot. So that's really reshuffled the deck of relationships.
I almost view Recross, as like a broken formula. Like, I'm surprised that none of these potentially rebellious, teenage girls who are the only combatants in this card game never have the idea of, just to establish where I'm coming from with this. We had a character who was battling without like a wish or something for the longest time, and I don't know if they're allowed to switch what their wish is at any point in time, but since the one person decided really late in the game, why can't you just change it, especially if it already inadvertently came true? I don't know, but I'm just saying, it would just be like the icing on the cake if some character in this series was going through and just like had a really bad, like a negative wish, like not like I want to be successful, I want to be rich, I want to be famous, I want to have friends. Like, let's go through this game like I want to be dirt poor and like the most incompetent person around, and then like once you lose like the 3 games, and like bam, instant success.
I bet that it would try and fulfill that in a monkey's paw sort of way. Like it'll fulfill that requirement in like the worst possible way that will leave you like very unhappy.
Well, yeah, but I meant like it's not fulfilling a requirement because
yeah,
again,
I mean,
if you win, you body swap, and it doesn't matter, your wish is trying to be fulfilled in some weird way. But if you lose, it just ensures that the exact opposite of your wish happens. No body swapping.
But I'm saying that it would probably do that in a way that would cause you to suffer.
Who knows?
And not leave you well off.
It was an interesting thought. I was like, that's all you have to do?
Well, maybe it doesn't really go with, like, you could say you want to wish for this, but then what you really wish for is what they're taking.
Yeah, I don't know how to. I don't want to think too hard about like the mechanics of this like wacky card game anime, but I think it's also that you need to communicate your wish to your
Lurig.
whatchamacallem.
Lurig.
Yeah, your lurig. Your LRIG, so that that character can fulfill that wish in your place.
I do find it interesting how like a lot of the characters got shuffled. I don't know if I've seen the most recent episode, but I do know I left off when one of the missing characters just kind of turned up again, and I really wanted to know like how that all went down. So I'm kind of like hoping this next episode starts really explaining stuff or just opening up to its story, but I would hate so much for that, like because I could see that monkey's paw like story forming right now. It's like, oh, we're gonna return this character, but not in like the most convenient way possible. So
I do like that like Scarface crazy bitch is still on the show.
Aki Lucky.
Yeah, Aki lucky. Oh my god.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Aki Lovable, right? Yeah.
Aki lovely, what was it?
Aki
Aki
Raki.
lucky.
Yes, Raki.
Yeah, I'm glad that they're still like totally batshit insane characters in the show, because that's also what made the first series fun for me. Is that they had that like totally despicable character in it, and yeah, and the more they learned about the card game, like the more terrifying it became. And yeah, I guess because they already spilled the beans on how the card game works, that this second series has less impact than the first one. You know, just because of that.
You know, I actually found that actually very interesting. While our main cast of characters are very aware of how that all works, when they attempt to explain it to the newer entrants into the game, they're like, no, get out of this now, here's what happens. And most of the combatants' response is, oh, that's exactly like the manga. It's like, wait, there's a manga out there depicting all this?
Yeah, she was like, didn't you read the light novel? I'm like, wow, this is really meta.
Yeah, but I'm just waiting for what's her name to start battling. I think that's gonna be really fun.
Ruko, battle Ruko. He's got that battle back on. Can't wait.
All right. Well, I think we're done for today. That's it for today. Hopefully, we'll have a few more people with us next week as we go through a lot more titles. We still got what, like another 20. So, is there any quick recommendations that you want to make that we haven't talked about? Just quick title.
That we haven't talked about?
Ones that we haven't talked about. I mean,
Like right now, I just found a short that was surprisingly funny, which was that high school Seha
No.
girl.
Was that any good?
I found it very entertaining. So
The high school Chia girl thing, I like randomly caught I think like the second episode of that thing, and it was like all CG fighting game stuff going. I didn't know what it was. I'm like, I don't even remember when the first episode came out. I was like, I don't know. This one does not seem to be for me.
it made me laugh a lot.
Same for me. Dropped it after the first 2 minutes, I think. Not my style.
I was about to say, you're not trying to hint us to like recommend Twin Tales, are you? Or is that what you're trying to do?
No.
No.
That show. Okay, we'll discuss that all next week. Okay.
I know, but you said a quick recommendation. Gosh.
So that's what you're recommending?
Sure.
That's Sean's recommendation.
Sean's recommendation.
no, I'm not recommending. Well, okay, I recommend that everyone watch the first episode at least of Twin Tales, so you can witness the very moment that the twin tail hairstyle jumps the shark, and you can be like, I was there.
But if you're watching it, make sure when she looks at her reflection for the first time, you notice where the subtitles are at.
Yeah.
Oh, if you're watching the Kami subs version, was it? Yeah.
That's the greatest one.
My actual recommendation, like out of the stuff that we haven't talked about, is Kaden Senki. It's like 10 minutes long. It's a sci-fi action. It's short and sweet. It's a lot of fun. It's pretty old school. It's like if you like Armitage the Third and that sort of stuff, then Kaden Senki is actually a lot like that.
Oh, that's pretty old.
Yeah, it's like a 1990s era sci-fi anime. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I, for myself, would recommend Shigatsu wa Kimi no Uso. It features a lot of classical music, and they're not bad at it. It's well, I like it, and I really look forward for every episode every week. And yeah,
What was the name of that? Oh, Shigatsu. Okay.
Shigatsu, the one with the violin and the piano.
Okay.
It had great start and really well done artwork, at least in the first episode.
Alright, so we'll discuss all that next week.
Mhm.
Go ahead and end this. Thank you guys for watching. You two little viewers, you. Don't forget to check out Owen Evans on Google Plus. He's our artist. He makes all these great little images for us. Then we have our anime community, Anime Talk, on Google Plus. If you're going to be joining us there, make sure you read the rules. We just recently changed them. So let's have fun. See you guys all next week.